Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. We've got springtime fishing happening all over the country right now, and I gotta tell you, one of my favorite pieces of structure to fish are docks. Doesn't matter if it's a floating dock or a metal pole dock or a big timber dock, they all hold fish, and the spring is one of the absolute best times to fish them. Man, we're talking about pre-spawn fish that use them to stage, spawning fish that use them to spawn around, post-spawn fish that are guarding fry and recovering from the spawn, use them before they move out to their summer areas. Docks are killer during the springtime period. All species of bass love to use them. And from that standpoint, today's video is going to be about the baits that I love to use all over the country anytime I'm fishing docks. These are my go-to baits. Now, before I do get into it, I do want to remind you I've got a Tackle Warehouse affiliate link. So if you're looking to purchase tackle, I would greatly appreciate it if you use my affiliate link. The little bit that I make from that goes right back into making content, which hopefully helps everyone catch more fish. I also have had a lot of people reach out and request lake breakdowns from me. And I want to remind you all that I've done a whole bunch of lake breakdowns on lakes all over the north part of the country. Based on spring, summer, fall fishing. You can get those at fishthemoment.com. I'll put the link in the video description for you as well. So if you're going to a lake and you want a little bit of help, you want to be pointed in the right direction, the lake breakdowns are exactly what you will need for that. All right, so let's talk about docks and these baits. Now, some of these baits vary a little bit based on the type of dock that I'm fishing, but overall, they will work on all docks that are out there. Now, I would say the king of all dock fishing is probably the wacky rig. The wacky rig is just an absolute animal when you're talking about fishing docks. You know, if you fish a weedless presentation like this Core Tackle wacky shot, weedless wacky shot, you can throw them basically anywhere. So whether you've got a floating dock with cables or you've got an actual pole timber dock that's got a bunch of cross beams, a wacky rig lets you work that through those areas and is just a really good slow presentation. So I don't think I'm really surprising anyone when I say, you know, pick up your favorite soft stick bait like the Berkeley General and just go fling it around docks. You're going to catch some fish. However, in some instances, it may not be the most efficient bait to use because it's a slow way to fish. I really like to throw the wacky rig when I know I'm around docks that have fish on them. If I happen to go to a lake, though, that is just littered with docks everywhere you go, and I want to cover water, that's when I might put the wacky rig down and I'm going to pick up a moving bait. Now, I've got a handful of moving baits that I really like to throw. One of the first is just a swim bait. Now, whether I'm fishing around largemouth, I might throw a bigger swim bait like this guy. This is the unrigged coal shad with a 7/0 Core Tackle tush hook, or maybe it's a small little swim bait like this little 3.3 Kitech in the finesse tush model. These are killer baits to be fishing around docks. A lot of times if I'm fishing around shallower floating docks where I think pre-spawn female largemouth are going to be sitting, I'll throw something like the coal shad. If I'm fishing floating docks that are over 30 feet of water and I'm on a spotted bass lake, that's where I'll throw the little Kitech swim bait. But a swim bait to be either retrieved right along the dock itself, right along the floats, or whether you just kind of let it pendulum and tight line underneath the dock, a swim bait is a great choice for that. If I'm fishing around docks that have a lot of, let's say floating docks that don't have a lot of cover around them, I really like to throw a vibrating jig. So this is a slobber knocker. I like to throw a slobber knocker specifically on floating docks that have cables. It comes, the blade style, the combination link to the head really comes over the cables well. So from that standpoint, it doesn't roll and get stuck on the cable. If I'm fishing a dock that's got some timber on it or maybe some brush piles on it, again, I like to go with the slobber knocker. But if the cover is too thick and maybe I'm slinging the bait actually up under the dock where I've got cross beams or I've got pole docks, that's when I actually like to go with a swim jig. So this is the Core Tackle swim jig with a Reaction Innovation skinny dipper on the back. I really like to fish a swim jig if I'm actually casting up under the dock. So generally with the vibrating jig, I'll be casting parallel to the dock and retrieving along the edge. If I'm fishing someplace where I can actually fire back into the dock or between boat slips, that's when I like to throw the swim jig. But the reason that these are so good is because, one, again, during the springtime, you could have a shad spawn going on. Docks are great places for shad spawns. At the same time, so in that case, I'd throw a white. At the same time, though, if I'm fishing up here in the North Country where we don't really have shad, but we have tons of bluegill, the bluegill are using those docks. So I'll grab a bluegill colored swim jig to fire up and around those docks. Swim jigs, vibrating jigs, killer baits around docks. It's kind of a bulkier four-wheel drive version of some of your exposed hook swim baits. Now another one that I love to fish is a buzz bait. So this is the Picasso Rusty Squeaker. This thing makes an insane amount of noise, and I love to fish these around pole docks, specifically pole docks. The reason for it is I can take a buzz bait and grab one that either runs left or right, and I can literally bang it into the poles on the dock. And I cannot tell you how important that is. There have been a lot of times where y'all throw a buzz bait all around the dock, never make contact, won't get a bite, and as soon as I can get the blades to click off the pole, I'll generate a bite. There have been times where that is the absolute key. So a buzz bait works really well for that because I can literally grab one that is either counterclockwise or clockwise and get it to run into the objects that I want it to hit. But you got to make cover with it. Really good bait for that. These are killer presentations, especially when the fish are more post-spawn. A lot of them are guarding fry around those docks. Hard for a bass to deny a buzzbait like that Rusty Squeaker. Now, if I'm going back to fishing docks that I feel very confident have some fish on it, I'm going to slow down, really work them. If I'm not throwing a wacky rig on it, another really good presentation is to throw the hover rig. Now, we make a weedless hover rig. This is with the Bass Tricks Hover Tricks, which, by the way, there's only a handful left on the website. So if you do want them, I highly recommend going and getting them. I think we might have a small shipment coming from Bass Tricks. I'm not sure when it's coming. It's not going to be a whole bunch more packs. So if you want them, get them now. The Hover Tricks pairs so well with the hover rig. But in general, this is just a killer bait, again, to throw. Let it just glide up around those docks, depending on which direction the bait wants to go. Sometimes it'll glide up under the dock. Sometimes it glides away. Just a great presentation for fishing around docks. And because you can get the weedless model, makes it a great bait to skip up all over. Again, and I'll also add, they skip amazingly well because your weight is in the plastic bait that you're throwing. And anytime you make a bait more compact, it'll fire back under those docks. Great skipping bait. And then the last one is just a fluke style bait. I really like to fish a fluke around docks where you can either twitch it or scamper it along the edge. This has got the Core Tackle scamper rig up inside. And you can just skip it and, you know, just kind of walk the dog with it, get it to twitch around. And if you've got some fish that are sitting under those docks waiting for an easy meal to come along, your fluke style baits can be an absolute dynamite one as well. These baits, if I'm fishing docks, these are the baits I'm throwing. I'm going to have these on, and I'm going to fire them based on the dock that I'm fishing, the species of bass that I'm fishing, and the style of that dock, and the location of the dock a little bit too. But if you're fishing docks, you need to try these baits. These will make you a much more efficient dock fisherman. Man, I love fishing docks. I love the act of having to place your bait very precisely no matter where you're trying to cast it. If you're trying to cast to a back corner pole, if you're trying to skip it 30 feet up under the dock, maybe you're trying to cast it between floats or under a pontoon boat tied up. It just is a very interactive way to fish, and some of the biggest fish in the lake will live around them. So hopefully this was helpful. If it was, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Stay tuned. We'll have a new video coming out tomorrow.